Guess what's back? Business and Brews, where real business talk meets real people, and always fueled by a good brew. This time we're going podcast first, bite-sized, insightful, and built for conversations you'll want to share. I'm your host, Matt Pierce, founder and CEO of Immediate, and I'll be sitting down with leaders, entrepreneurs, and friends to talk about leadership, growth, and the stories that make business worth talking about. So grab your favorite brew, pull up a chair, and let's talk business the way it's meant to be talked about. Business and Brews, back, bolder, better than ever. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Business and Brews. I'm your host, Matt Pierce, and today we've got Thor Hunter, Head of Sales and Partnerships for RedeApp. Thor, glad to have you here.
Likewise, Matt. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Let's kick it off. We always like to get started with Business and Brews. We got to talk about the brews, so tell us what you're sipping on over there.
Yeah, right now I've got some please and thank you coffee. So we're here in Louisville, Kentucky, which is mostly known for bourbon, horse racing, but we're kind of in the Nulu neighborhood, a very cool area of town, and one block down is please and thank you. So they have the world's best cookies that they say, and also I say, as well as a good just black coffee for me. So
Nice.
that's what we've got today.
Did you get cookies too, or just the coffee today?
You know, we have a box in the office, like indefinitely. So I just needed the coffee.
Awesome. Well, next time I'm up there, we'll have to go get some of those cookies and some coffee. But and I will say, Louisville, Kentucky, you mentioned it. I know you guys are known for taking bourbon to conferences. So tell me a little bit about that. And obviously, for people who don't drink bourbon, you shouldn't be listening because I talk about it a lot. But for those of you who do drink bourbon, Thor's got a lot of good, interesting stories. And we went to a place back in February, I guess, like a really good bourbon bar right up the street from you guys. So tell them about what you guys do at conferences.
In the expo hall, the vendors are pitching their wares, for lack of a better term. It's competition for eyeballs is really what it is. Being here in Kentucky, where bourbon comes out of the faucets pretty much. We're like, people like bourbon. This is a thing that gets them interested and definitely catches the eyeballs. We actually custom do these bottles. This is a big one of Woodford Reserve with the name of the conference and the company logo on it. So we sit there and it's just on its lonesome. People walk by, we say, do you like bourbon? And the answer is either yes or my husband does.
Right.
So it always catches the attention, and that's just the icebreaker that we use. We raffle it off, right?
Yeah.
Works out. We get the conversations with the attendees, and they're getting a chance to win, right? So That's the strategy. It works out really well, and we just keep doing it, and it never fails.
Years ago, I remember I was going to a conference, and I'd gotten I had to get a TV to do a demo on, and so I got on Amazon, and I just had it shipped there, like Amazon Prime. I got there, set it up, I get done, and I take it to the FedEx place, and I got the TV for like $300. It was like a 40 inch something, like wasn't a huge TV. And I go to ship it back out, and they're like, it's $130 to ship it home. And I was like, I got it shipped here for free, and I don't want to do this. And so I came up with a strategy where I would buy a new TV and I would make the TV the giveaway, right? Like if you traveled in, it doesn't work well in Vegas because most people are traveling in, but if it was like a local, like where people would drive in, you would go, put in a card, win a TV, and so I would just buy a new TV at every one I went to. And I remember the end of the year, my boss was like, what's the deal with all these Amazon charges? I'm like, yeah, I bought like 14 TVs this year. I think bourbon's even better and not quite as expensive as having to buy a new TV every time, but that's cool. Well, let's jump into like your journey personally and kind of what led you to RedeApp, and then after that, one of my favorite parts is always hearing kind of the short elevator pitch of the business. But let's start with your journey. What led you to where you are today?
In high school, I was doing a lot of construction work, kind of under the table, general contractor. Dad, a very business oriented mom, and I was doing the framing, the pouring the concrete, like kind of all the grunt work, right? Throughout, after high school through college, I worked at UPS at third shift. Here in Louisville, they'll actually pay for your school to work third shift at night, handling packages, sorting all of them. So I got free college in exchange for a very grueling sort of job and schedule. It was midnight to 4 part-time. But what happened, or where it evolved into, is kind of right out of college, I went straight into enterprise software, selling an EHR into big health systems, which looking back on it is just completely, I think it was like monster.com was like the job board that I just sent an application in, and just it snowballed from there into a job offer. But for a 22-year-old kid kind of coming into that that role, it was pretty wild to get, and then also, stay there for 4 years. So
What
enterprise
EHR
software.
company was this? I don't think I knew this about you.
Yeah, it was specifically for breast centers, right? So this was 2011, and it was a company called MagView.
Okay.
So the entire value prop was digitizing the radiologists reading mammograms
Yeah.
and doing the transcriptions and things like that. Not only supporting their efforts and kind of one-click reporting versus, 30 minutes of dictation or reporting or whatever it is, but then also the technologists who are doing all the data entry, taking them from either, doing it on the mic or writing the reporting themselves, even in 2011, was essentially the value prop. And it was right in that high tech era. If you remember
Oh,
that
yeah.
part of
The
Obamacare, meaningful
stimulus
use.
act, right? Where they're getting
Yeah.
paid to launch an EHR.
Well, we fell under that. So
Very
all these
cool.
hospital systems have all these monies for EHR, and of course, Epic was the 800-pound plus gorilla just
Right.
steamrolling the country. So we, I don't want to say got the leftovers, but we got the leftovers, right? So we're the EHR for
I think
breast.
most people in that industry are getting the leftovers, like whatever Epic doesn't take.
So I was right in the middle of that, and it was a very interesting time. It was on-prem to cloud, and it was this high-tech and meaningful use era for hospital systems that, looking back on it, was really impacted the way that that entire industry functions today, right?
Yeah.
But at the time, I didn't know anything. I was a 22-year-old kid, and I just came in and figured it out.
Right. How do you think that has shaped as a salesperson? How has that like that experience shaped your career? Meaning, like, one of the things that I thought about, we can talk about this more offline. I was at an electronic health record company. It was my first job. I was there from '05 until 2014. So I got to kind of ride the
Oh,
the
wow.
wave of
You
the.
were more in it than I was.
Yeah, I
Wow.
mean, it was just this perfect storm, right? Of doctors needing technology. Like it's not the 19th century. We shouldn't be using pencil and paper anymore. We should digitize this. We should create interoperability. We should be able to pass data back and forth. And then the government coming in and going, all right, by the way, we're going to give you $44,000 per doctor to roll out a meaningful use EHR, right? And so I found myself, we're just chipping away when I start, and we're going and we're growing. But when that happened, it was like this flood of opportunity. And so the piece of it though is that for the first 4 or 5 years while I was there, I'm really like fighting the good fight in the sales process, and you're learning all the X's and O's. And so was that something when you came in? I mean, I'm not discounting at all the fact that it's still sales is sales, right? And you've still got a lot of things to go through. But do you feel like having those incentives kind of behind you? How did that kind of shape getting off the ground in your sales career? And then what are things you learned from that when you moved on to your next opportunity that you could kind of rinse and repeat?
I believe the high tech meaningful use was a couple years, like 2008 or so,
That's right. Yeah.
going off memory now. A lot of that money had already kind of been used. It wasn't kind of the open season that all the other reps who had been there and,
Got it.
when it came
Yeah.
out, kind of were doing it. But also I was a hunter farmer role, right? So I was assigned, a territory, kind of Kentucky, Ohio, and Indiana. But I say that because the crux of that job was saving a botched implementation, a big healthcare system about an hour away. It's like a 400K implementation of that software that had been done right before I started, right? And part of my role coming in was, this implementation's going poorly. We need someone there to take the lashes, for lack of a better
Right.
term. You've got
Right.
hospital CIOs and breast center administrators and radiologists mad at you, and you're 22 and you don't even know what an EHR is yet, really, like
Right.
as a function. So that was a trial by fire that really informed kind of the rest of the career. So from that experience, right, and I was able to weather it with the overwhelming support of everyone in the company, kind of realizing the position I was put in to basically triage things internally, but also externally with the customer. But all of that very challenging sort of experience allowed me to A, tell stories kind of after the fact when I'm going to bring on new health systems, but then B, learn the real sort of value drivers for each of the roles, because I'm working with everyone from the person that you see when you first walk into the breast
Right.
center who's doing data entry up through the radiologists and CIO. So I'm getting right in the weeds of the entire system of operation processes for the hospital, which really, really set me up for understanding how to later sell the platform.
Right.
Rough at first, but man, was that experience gold.
Yeah, well, and I think there's probably a lot to be said for that, right? The things where we struggle and are thrown into the deep end end up being the ones that come back around to be some of the most valuable, like learnings of our career, right?
Hmm.
Me and you could probably talk about that for a while, all that we learned in our healthcare technology days. But let's talk about RedeApp a little bit and where you are today. Can you give us just kind of the high level elevator pitch, 30, 60-second spiel on what you guys do?
Our mission here is effective. We're connecting the mobile workforces, the folks in organizations that, you know, everyone has one of these that live and breathe on mobile, whether you're a big enterprise or a soccer club, my kid's soccer team, right? Connecting them to the people and tools that matter,
Right.
connecting everyone to everyone that matters or everything that matters is really what it's evolved into and is really what we're excited about in 2026. That's enterprise software sales up through freemium or down, however you want to put that. It
They're
covers it
really
all,
good.
right? So freemium offerings to sports and social clubs up through the biggest companies in the world is where we're handling the connection and communication that's people still struggle with it.
And it's one of the things that I like about what you guys do, and obviously where there's good connectivity between you guys and Immediate as partners is just a focus on the frontline workforce, right? Like it's really who moves this country.
Hmm.
And I think we all felt it and experienced it going through COVID of how vitally important the frontline workforce is. And you guys have a big focus there and making sure that um you're taking care of those people who are taking care of us, right? And so I think that's a pretty awesome thing that you're doing. And obviously, you guys are having a lot of success. The kind of companies you're working with, and can you talk a little bit about some of the lessons learned and things that you've experienced over the past few years there, transitioning from like boots on the street out smiling and dialing and working and then moving into a leadership role, but still in the stage of business you guys are still carrying that bag in a lot of ways. Can you talk a little bit about that?
To boil it down, business is people. Companies are people. At the end of the day, and the EQ, emotional intelligence, the empathy to understand, to listen, to connect, and really get to the heart of the matter of what someone needs carries through whether you're doing 100 dials a day with a headset on or flying across the pond to sit down with the C-suite of a global organization. It's the same sort of skill set that carries through. And sharpening that axe, always sharpening that axe with humility and coming to truly, connect and then understand what the challenges actually are for whether that's an SMB owner who needs to just reach his staff at 3 coffee shops, right? Or
Hmm.
whether it's a CIO with 30,000 employees that don't have a tool that people are using, right? It's finding that and then being able to take it and create a solution that works for both is the through line, I think, through it all. And there's a million other hard skills, soft skills that come along with it, but that's the end of the main piece, the fundamental building block of it all.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, what you're describing is solution selling, right? Like
Hmm.
understanding and the problem, taking time with each, regardless of who you're selling to or who you're working with or the size of the organization, like connecting with those people and understanding like what are the inefficiencies, what are ways we can help support you and your company and your growth and your goals, right?
Hmm.
Makes a ton of sense. Do you have any good sales stories that you feel comfortable sharing here that don't give away any of your secrets?
Yeah, I love the dance, the vendor buyer dance. You get consensus built, you do the things. There's still contracts to work through, people to convince, but your core stakeholders, are in place, and they're bringing you into a wider group that might be a blocker or something like that. And the things that people will do, for lack of a better term, to haze a salesperson is really funny, and you got to roll with it. I remember it was back in that first company, the EHR, the radiologist. Every door I'd walk through, instead of holding it, he'd close it on me. It's like, oh, it's just the sales guy, that sort of thing. And they're testing you, right? This was actually in Boston. There was a vendor of ours that we work with already who had someone there that was looking to do business with them. And the whole thing was they were testing them. We were at a karaoke club. They're like, you got to go do karaoke with Bob. Here, you're going to do this song, a duet, and they get up there, and then Bob just gets off the stage, right? And she's sitting there like, fumbles her way through it, quite frankly, but she ended up getting the
Did
business, right?
did both of the duets to both sides?
That's correct. Yeah.
Pretty
She,
awesome. Did they
well,
change their voice with each one, or was it like,
I can't say it was a um, Grammy worthy performance, right? So there was a lot of stumbling, visual
yeah,
nervousness, and all the things, right? But that's not what mattered. What mattered is that she did it, right?
right?
And
Yeah,
that got her the. She had everything else done, and that got her the business. I'm thinking of another one here locally that they make you sit in a waiting room for 20 minutes. That's pretty common, but they turn the heat up to 90 while you're sitting there waiting. And it's all part of this game, right?
yeah,
That is, you got to be able to roll with it beyond just the nuts and bolts, the fundamentals, the pitching, and all that. It's goes back to that kind of EQ. You have to understand what's happening and then how to
right.
respond to it, type of thing.
Yeah, I remember in my EHR days, one of our sales guys was he's like a state champion tennis player in high school, but he had not played in a while, and he found out that one of the docs he was selling was, like, played a ton of tennis, was
Hmm.
highly rated. I don't remember, like, what the rating system is, but he was like, "This guy's, like, really good," and it was a big practice. It's like a 20 doctor practice, but this was the lead doc, and so he challenged him to a tennis match, and he said, they've been talking for a while, right? Not like this was the first meeting, like, they've been talking for a while, and he said, "Look, I'll challenge you to a tennis match." And he said, "If I beat you, you sign with us." And the doctor's like, "Oh, you're on. Let's do it." Like Friday afternoon, and he shows up, and he was audacious, man. He showed up with the contract and a pen. He goes, right, and he was like, 2 out of 3 sets. Once I take you down, this is what you're gonna sign. And the guy waxed him. The doctor waxed him. I mean, like beat him like 6-0, 6-1 or something. He goes and he gave me the one game just to like make me feel better. He goes, "But I'll tell you, I didn't give up." He goes, "I had not been playing tennis much, and this guy was playing a lot." He's like, "I
Hmm.
wasn't in as good a shape as I used to be in, et cetera, et cetera." And he's like, "But he saw that I never gave up. He saw that I kept trying, and he liked the confidence that I came out there. And I'm going to sign with you guys because if the other people you work with work this hard and taking our practice live, like we're gonna be really happy as a customer." And so, to your point, I think there's a lot of that of you want to see how people react to certain situations. You want to build relationships. And I've never heard of someone pulling the do a duet and taking what and the other person jumps off stage.
Business. You want to know that you can do business with this person, and if they're going to uh, get knocked down each game of tennis and keep getting back up, right? The resilience, the stick-to-itiveness is a word I've heard that comes to mind right now. But you want to do business with that person versus the
Right.
person that doesn't show up, because when things get hard, if they're a vendor, you want them to have that resilience. You want to know that they're going to be supporting you because it's your business you're trusting them with.
Yeah. 100%. That's awesome. Well, tell us, I know just because we're a immediate, obviously, as a financial wellness company, would love to hear any financial advice. Would love to hear anything you've got to share on that.
The thing that comes to mind, and this applies in a lot of areas, as most kind of maxims, quotes, what do, but is the idea that if your job is to move a big pile of dirt, and some days you show up with a shovel, and some days you show up with a spoon, you're still moving that dirt. It's
Yeah.
the consistency of it all. That was John Wellborn, not me, of course, right? But the idea is that consistency wins out, showing up wins out, right, in the long run. And from a financial perspective, of course, the mind-boggling math problem of compounding interest, that's right there. But also the keep doing the right things, keep stacking the right conversations, keep making the right moves, and it's going to pay off,
Yeah.
right? And there's been plenty of times where personal struggles, professional struggles. I want to leave this company for this reason, in past roles and things like that. Just show up and do the thing the next day. Not saying that that's always the right answer, but you keep doing the right things, it's going to work out.
Yeah.
And that applies to finance. It applies to working out in the gym. It applies to all the things.
That's good stuff. Well, I got one or two more I want to tackle with you, and then we'll wrap up. One, I would love to hear any thoughts you have on AI or ways that you're utilizing AI in your day to day.
Yeah, a lot of ways is the short answer. I'm gonna start kind of from a business point of view. Can I plug another podcast? Is that a thing that's allowed to happen here?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. And I have no affiliation with them. I just discovered them like a month ago. There's a podcast called Acquired that
Yeah,
does
it's awesome.
a okay. So did you listen to the Google, the 3-part like 12-hour Google epic?
Yeah, I haven't
Oh
finished it.
my gosh.
I've listened to most of it. It's so good. Those guys are great.
It's so thoroughly written. They've gotten such a platform now that they get interviews with Steve Ballmer. They get all the guys, right? So they're going through the history of Google, 96, 7, right, and how search was the thing then, and the environment of the industry of technology of all the things is so eerily similar to now with AI that it's uh it's top of mind for me in terms of how folks are going to take this new technology, this new epoch of possibility, and bring it to market in a way that wins, right? So that's what I'm paying attention to most. We've got our hat in the ring, 1,000 million other people do, and we're being creative and strategic about how it makes the most sense for our business, our mission, that can then take it to not just the masses, but the people and problems that make the most sense. So so cap that. Google figured it out. They had the best business model known to man, according to Acquired, and after listening, I agree. For how they, took search and made it the thing that built the internet as we know it today. And that's going to happen again in some way, shape, or form with AI. It's that powerful,
Hmm.
and creativity and all the things being put towards it is en masse, and it's exciting to see
Yeah.
for the business world, right? So that's how we're approaching it, and I know our CEO is all over it all the time and bringing new ideas daily. Personally, I've been a Chat GPT user. I hear great things about Gemini, and will likely be moving to that soon. But I've got so much built out in
Right.
Chat GPT. What I'm doing is taking effectively all the data from all the apps, all the systems, all that I have, right? So I've got Strava in there. I've got Google Maps. I've got Apple Health, right, is sending data, and I vibe coded, legitimately just had ChatGPT give me the code to send all of the information from all of these different platforms into a data lake that I've built in Google, to take it all in and take all this structured but unrelated data and map it for correlation points. So it's like, okay, I drove to Milwaukee 2019 and I was having a lot of trouble sleeping, that night when I got in at like midnight, right? So what's the correlation there? And can you pinpoint the trouble sleeping that night with other similar factors, right? So yeah, Thor, you actually have a lot of trouble sleeping when you do long drives after the fact. Your body
Hmm.
probably needs time to wind down, blah blah blah. So you can take all the things that companies are already tracking about you, by the way, and use it for yourself, which
Right.
is where I'm going with the Chat GPT and all that. So I've got all this built out, which is why I've yet to switch to Gemini, but it's the next level according to everyone that I've talked to that knows about it. So
Do you think those long drives had anything to do with like pounding coffee the whole time to stay up late, and that's why you end up?
it's not just so coffee for sure.
Yeah.
Pro tip that I learned, and maybe it's just a me thing, but on long drives, it's sunflower seeds that are going to
Hmm.
keep you awake. And I think it's because there's a part of your brain that has to figure out how to crack each one
Right.
individually, and that keeps that part. Not a doctor. I don't know if it's the amygdala or what, but it keeps your brain alert in ways that mass amounts of coffee will make you crash.
That's good stuff. Yeah, super interesting, man. Hats off to you for doing that. It's really cool. A lot of times the response to that question is, "Can I use it to help me write emails?" That's one way to use AI, but that's cool that you're using it in a way that you can take data that's already readily available and make it actionable, make it something that you can track and better understand. And ultimately, I mean, obviously, using that to improve outcomes. The outcome, of course, being like, next time I've got a long drive, here's some things that I know, like these are the things that have created a poor sleep cycle once I get in. And so if I do it differently this time, here's the way I'm going to do it. And then you've got another data point and like keep going. That's pretty awesome. Very cool.
It came so fast. And again, Acquired, which I'm addicted to, if you can't tell. Did an episode, or rather, it was the third part of the Google one where they're talking about Sam Altman and OpenAI, how that all started. It all started at Google, by the way. All the guys who've spun off Anthropic and all these things were all at Google together at one point in time.
Mm.
But anyway, OpenAI, they didn't even plan to go to market with this in any way. They just were putting it out there, and it took off like wildfire once they effectively had the LLM with a front end access point for
Right.
chatting, right? And people just started using it. Like, that was the end of what, 22 or 3 maybe, not that long ago. But the applications and the possibilities are so mind-boggling. I mean,
Right.
there's, I've heard about a company out of somewhere in the Middle East. I want to say it was even Dubai, somewhere. They basically are creating with their own hands the agentic single function kind of AI tools that they're combining together, and their goal is to rebuild Microsoft.
Hmm.
with all of the tools basically coding kind of on their own little remit, like little engines, little AI agentic engines that are doing
Yeah.
their very specific piece all together to build out code, which is the implications of that are unreal, right? So all these things, all these creative ways to use it are only going to get more mind-boggling, right? And that's where it applies back to the business and who cracks the code on
Right.
what's the go-to-market that wins here,
Right.
because it's top of everyone's mind, I think. At
Yeah.
least it is mine.
Absolutely. Well, I'll give you. You've probably listened to it, but one of my favorite acquired episodes is the Costco episode. Have you listened to that one?
Not I haven't got to that one
Oh,
yet. I
dude,
did Epic. Why I
Epic,
mentioned them a
yeah,
minute ago.
Epic's good. My one of my daughters listened to the Epic when she came in one day, and she's like, "What do you know about Judy Faulkner?" And I was like, "What do you know about Judy Faulkner?" I'm like, "How do you know? You're 12. How do you know who she is?"
That's
Yeah, the Costco one is awesome. I love it, and I got to see those guys. I got to see them live. Interviewed Jamie Dimon in New York City this
yeah.
summer, and that was a lot of fun. So
Oh, you were there for that. That's
yeah, yeah,
awesome.
was cool, and they did a little. I got to go to a thing afterwards, and I didn't get to meet them. I didn't feel like standing in the line, but one of the guys I went with got to meet them, and so it's cool. They're really good guys, super smart, super down to earth, and have done a really great job with that podcast. And it's just fascinating to go hear some of the behind the scenes stuff that's happened and went on with some of the
Yeah,
companies that we now know to be the biggest and most successful businesses that are out there. And look, that's a little bit of the reason that we do this, right? We had this thought 4 or 5 years ago that in a lot of cases, you hear about a company or you see a name or you see an entrepreneur and you see the success that they're having today, but you don't really know all the backstory. And there's not, especially for look when you're Google or your Costco or your Rolex or your Epic, like there's a lot of people who want to feature you. But I think that there's a lot of gold nuggets to be found from conversations like this and conversations with people who have learned a ton, have done a lot, have been instrumental in helping grow businesses. And so it's part of why we like to do Business and Brews. So appreciate you being a part of it.
of course.
Last thing I'll ask you today before we wrap up, 2026 big plans. What do you guys? Anything you're super excited about, or anything you want to chat about here before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I'll keep it under wraps for the most part, but I will say that we're going to be pulling the rip card as hopefully as early as Q1 in 2026 for a lot of growth, kind of going overseas in a big way. And the additional next level of what we can offer in terms of AI is going to blow some people's minds, I think, which is a bit of a separate thing from what I just mentioned. RedeApp, I've spent 13 years getting connection to frontline employees. That's an extremely tough nut to crack. It
Right.
is something that the biggest companies in the world struggle with. We feel like we've cracked the code. We've got all this data. How do we plug AI into that to provide uh, unbefore now, before now, never seen insights, right? The things that sentiment analysis is one, but all the things that any leader in an organization that has no visibility might want to know about how their employees feel about the new PTO policy. How many open beds are in Indiana right now? How
Hmm.
many, how many, how many, how many? All this unstructured and semi-structured data that we can take in and provide reporting back up that no one else can really get
Right.
is something that's exciting me personally as I get to go tell people about it. But that's where we're heading, and it's the snowball is gaining momentum.
Awesome. Well, I'm thankful for this partnership and glad that we get to see some of that and hopefully can media can help you guys out in a lot of those areas and we can continue to collaborate in 2026. Thanks
Sure.
for being here with me, Thor. I hope it's a great year for you guys. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Another episode of Business and Brews. See you later, everybody.